Hello and welcome to Euromonitor International's podcast series looking at the big conflicting trends that are defining industries today. I'm Amy Rollinson, beauty and fashion consultant, and I'm joined today by Rob Eveson, drinks and tobacco research analyst, and Kalina, Doykova research associate.
Pleasure to be here.
Hi Amy, nice to join you today.
The previous episodes in the series, which are available on our website, look at digital fatigue in a period of digital reliance, sustainability in fashion in an age of overconsumption, and the dichotomy between energy and relaxation claims across drinks, health, and beauty industries. Today, we're going to focus on the socialization paradox, taking a look at the most impacted industries, innovation from brands and retailers in navigating this paradox, and future expectations of the socialization of consumers. So firstly, it'd be great to know what exactly is the socialization paradox and how are consumer attitudes shifting relating to this?
Well, we're seeing countries around the world slowly recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic and gradually lifting their restrictions. And this has created what we call a socialization paradox, in which we see consumers approaching a return to pre-pandemic life in different ways based on their comfort levels. So, for example, in Western European countries, we're seeing an increasing number of consumers that are ready to fully participate in society again, and they're ready to return to some form of normality after 2 years of lockdowns and home seclusion, despite the ongoing risk that they could still contract COVID-19. Now, as the pandemic restrictions are removed, travel is beginning to resume, and also the hospitality sector has reopened. More and more people want to go out. They want to reunite with their friends and family. They want to travel, and they really want to make up for the lost time.
That's very true. However, there is also a section of people who are still quite hesitant to return to their pre-pandemic habits over concerns of contracting the virus. Some people are still quite reluctant to eat at a restaurant or go to a cafe. Some people are, of course, vulnerable and at greater risk if they were to contract the virus, and others, of course, are just simply used to their pandemic way of life and are accustomed to consuming products or doing things at home rather than going out. If we were to look at this from a travel point of view, many are still concerned about going on holiday, especially abroad. Some countries still have travel restrictions that, as we have seen, can change at very short notice. There's also the risk of testing positive whilst you're on holiday. And then there are still, in many cases, forms to fill in and tests to do before you can actually travel. For many people, these factors outweigh the benefits of a few days in the sun. Another thing that I perceive, and something that is reflected in our data, is that there is a generational split as well as a geographical one when it comes to the socialization paradox. In the Euromonitor International's Voice of the Consumer Lifestyle Survey, it is clear that the younger a person is, the more likely they are to say that they will conduct more of their interactions in person in the next years. However, it is also the case that across ages, including baby boomers, that there is a clear desire for our lives to return to that pre-pandemic normality and to have more interactions in person. Therefore, I think it's clear to say that there is a desire amongst everyone to return to that in-person pre-pandemic normality.
Yes, I do agree with you, Rob, but we still see some variation in comfort levels and some maybe different expectations across different age groups. And this has had a very significant impact on all industries. Now, of course, some industries have had to adapt more than others, but if we look overall at the big picture, the socialization paradox has really pushed companies and retailers as well to respond in a multitude of ways in order to accommodate for these wide range of preferences and expectations as we're slowly moving away from the pandemic. So we have seen a lot of innovation and a lot of flexibility from different players. So Rob and I will continue in our discussions with mentioning and talking a little bit about some of these innovations that we have seen.
Thanks, Kalina. So which industries is the socialization paradox affecting most and how?
I think that the travel industry has been affected the most by the socialization paradox. Businesses have had to rethink and adapt their business models in order to accommodate for different comfort levels, as we already mentioned, and also to adapt to different restrictions, which are often fluctuating. If we're looking at the logic sector more closely, for example, we have seen many businesses adopting flexible booking policies or waiving their cancellation fees in case consumers contract COVID and they want to cancel or postpone their trip and they stay at that particular accommodation. So, all businesses providing any sort of accommodation have had to follow strict cleanliness and safety protocols, and also many continue to do so as the virus is still spreading. I've also come across quite a few businesses that have invested in tech in order to provide customer services through mobile apps, for example, or also to provide quick and contactless check ins in order to minimize physical contact. So I think this is something that will continue to grow and will stay for the next years to come. And in the UK, more precisely, we have seen Euromonitor's data, which shows that the short term rentals market overperformed and recovered back to pre pandemic levels by the end of 2021, with a yearly growth reaching 41%. The primary reason for this is that more people are taking longer holidays and they're also looking for self contained accommodation with more space and self catering facilities. And they do so in order to avoid mixing with large groups of people while they still choose to go out and travel. And, this rise of residential style accommodation can also be observed in the hotel sector, which we all know suffered substantially during the pandemic, especially in large cities. An example can be seen in Marriott's Villas and Home brand, which has focused on opening more home outlets across the UK and in the regions amidst the staycation boom last year in 2021. And this was done to accommodate for the high demand. And we have also seen a strong recovery to pre-pandemic levels by the end of 2021 for camping outlets as more people sought nature escapes where they will be able to maintain social distancing while still being able to travel.
That's really interesting. And Rob mentioned a geographic difference. Is this something that varies within the region?
Yeah, so we do indeed see a variation across different countries in Western Europe. Each country in the region has reopened at different stages as the coronavirus has caused setbacks for some more than for others. But if we look, the UK and Denmark were the first Western European countries to lift all their COVID-related restrictions and to reopen the quickest. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that the socialization paradox doesn't exist in these countries. Quite the opposite. But we do see an increased number of consumers that tend to be a little bit less cautious due to lower public anxiety about COVID-19 compared to other countries in the region. And in the UK, more specifically, we have seen this through a very strong growth in domestic trips in 2021, high demand for leisure and hospitality, and a strong rebound of international travel in 2022 as we speak.
And from an alcoholic drinks point of view, it has been very, very much impacted by the socialization paradox. It's important to remember, I think, that the onset of the pandemic meant that the proportion of sales taking place in off-trade locations significantly increased because bars and restaurants had to shut their doors. Now, going forward, the question is, on the one hand, you've got consumers wanting to return to bars and restaurants, wanting to spend their money. But on the other hand, you have a section of people who are still quite hesitant to go to these places, but still want to recreate the experiences that they would get there. So they want that expertly made cup of coffee, or they want that pint with the perfect head to it. The question then is, how can companies appeal to both these groups of people, and how will this evolve in the future? In many Western countries, as I'm sure we know, the consumption of alcohol is very much a social act, something done with friends. We can see in our data that this is returning. The proportion of sales taking place in on-trade locations is increasing. We've also seen restaurants and bars attempt to persuade these hesitant consumers back into their location, such as by highlighting their cleaning practices, or by maybe avoiding the use of paper menus, using a QR code instead. Beer companies will have to assess their draft beer versus canned beer production going forward, and spirits producers will have to navigate the extent to which those drinks associated with nighttime consumption, such as tequila, will recover. Overall, on-trade establishments need to adapt to the new normal, such as the hybrid working model. Another trend that I've seen that interested me that we've seen in Spain is how the pandemic has meant that alcohol consumption occasions are now taking place earlier in the day. This is shown through a trend for pre-dinner aperitif drinks, such as vermouth.
Thanks, Rob. And then home care, that must have been an area that was really impacted by the pandemic with home seclusion. How is it further affected by the socialization paradox?
Yes, definitely, Amy. So for home care, consumers that are more cautious and less comfortable with traveling and returning to bars and restaurants have focused on investing in their homes, or they have focused on preparing food and coffee at home, which has positively impacted both the home and garden and the consumer appliances industries. According to Euromonitor's International Lifestyle Survey, more people have adopted a home-centric lifestyle, and they have also said that many leisure activities have moved into the home. As a result, spending priorities have shifted towards investing on upgrading living spaces or on buying new consumer appliances. For example, we have seen a significant increase in retail sales of gardening products in Western Europe, as gardening became a very popular stress-free activity for many consumers during the lockdown, who had ample time to improve their garden space. In 2021, gardening hand tools continued to grow regionally by 9%, following a boom in 2020, and the regional sales of indoor plants in Western Europe reached record growth of 14%. We have also seen a similar trend in the consumer appliance industry, where there was a strong growth in retail sales of food preparation and smoke cooking appliances, and also of espresso coffee machines in 2020, which continued well into 2021 as consumers changed their eating habits and they also embraced at-home cooking and coffee preparation.
That's really interesting. So how exactly are brands responding to this paradox? Have there been any innovations that has been led by this?
Yeah, when the pandemic hit in 2020, businesses across the board really had to rapidly adapt what they were doing. With regards to drinks, I think several of the key trends we've seen have first been the desire to recreate those on-trade experiences at home. We've also seen companies expand their product range. I saw an example of this recently from Illy, who had launched their cold brew coffee. We've also, thirdly, seen attempts to attract and then retain consumers through the use of subscription programs. And I think a very good example of this is from Pret a Manger. Pret were greatly affected by the onset of the lockdown, and some stores, particularly in central locations, closed. In response, they launched their subscription program, first at £20 a month and now £25 a month. And we've also seen Pret at Home, which is where one can buy products such as granola or ketchup or frozen pastries from supermarkets. You can also get it online and also in Pret stores. Pret have said also that they want to develop their delivery capacity, and also that they want to open stores in more regional and suburban areas, of course reflecting the hybrid working model that we've all become accustomed to. With regards to alcoholic drinks, an interesting piece of product innovation that I have come across actually came from Japan, which is where Asahi launched the super dry Namajoki can, which is where a foam is formed when the can is opened. This, of course, replicates the style of a draft beer. This technology is pretty similar to the widgets used in cans of Guinness. And, well, I can say it was very, very popular when it was launched in Japan in 2021.
That's very interesting, Rob. But yeah, we have also seen quite a lot of innovation from travel as well. I can take the example of hostels, which were the hardest hit lodging category in the UK. the Youth Hostel Association in the UK, which had to repurpose completely for some time in the beginning of the pandemic in order to stay afloat, was able to fuel the recovery of its hostels and deal with the socialization paradox by allowing consumers to make flexible bookings of private rooms or even entire hostels rather than a single bed. This was very beneficial as families and large groups of people were able to book an entire room at a very affordable price. Now, the hostels have also benefited from its proximity to nature and consumers as they looked for retreat. So the hostels were also able to benefit from their proximity to nature as consumers looked for retreats that were far away from the crowds. A number of outdoor activities offered by the hostel also helped appeal a number of outdoor activities offered by the hostel appealed to consumers seeking adventure. We have also seen in Euromonitor's 2021 lifestyle survey that respondents across generations and income groups have had a more considerate spending in light of financial distress caused by the pandemic, and also in light of the rising cost of living crisis that we're going through right now. So while people might want to go out and explore, some might be financially constrained and unable to do so. So I think that the Youth Hostel Association has been able to tap into the high demand for affordable nearby holiday destinations and also the high demand for value for money in order to attract more customers. And then moving on to home and garden, we have also seen the UK-based Skies company offering a wide range of products to consumers willing to develop their balconies into cozy living spaces. So such products include plants or furniture, for example, and we know remodeling balconies is a good way for people that would like to remain more cautious to recreate and to enjoy outdoor nature spaces at their home, without leaving their apartments.
Thank you both. Lots of great examples of innovation there. And then lastly, what do you think that the future looks like for the socialization paradox? Do you think that consumer attitudes will remain forever shifted?
Well, Amy, I think that the future remains uncertain, but I think that it is likely that a socialization paradox will remain for the next several years and will continue to influence consumer habits as we're moving to post-pandemic mode. But at the end of the day, people are social animals and they would want to socialize. However, the pandemic has ushered a new normal where people demand a flexible approach and they want the option to choose when to be social and when not to be.
Yeah, I agree that a flexible approach is set to continue, and those pandemic prompted habits such as hybrid working will continue. However, as more time passes, I do think that the direction of travel will be a return to those pre-COVID routines. For drinks, of course, this means a return to bars, cafes, and restaurants. One thing that we are also predicting is a roaring 20s trend where people desire indulgence and extravagance after some difficult years, much like that which was seen 100 years ago after World War I and the Spanish flu pandemic. At the moment, countries are slowly phasing out their COVID rules. And I think that people will gradually, at different speeds and influenced, no doubt, by the speed of the lifting of restrictions, will shift back to their pre-pandemic socialization routines and habits.
A return to social habits sounds very promising. Thank you both for sharing your insights, and thank you all for listening to this podcast. Watch this space for more inspiring talks from our worldwide network of industry experts. And remember, you can find all of our multimedia content, including videos, podcasts, and articles, on our website at euromonitor.com/insights.